Hi. We already discussed the rationale behind the course, and we now turn to the syllabus. I see the syllabus as more or less of a contract between you and me on how we will conduct the course. And as with any contract, I expect you to read it carefully, as I'm sure you've done with any end-user license agreement. And now I have. There's a link to the syllabus on the left, but as you see, I already opened it. I'm going to share my screen with you so we can look at it together. I thought it would be useful to highlight some of the aspects of the syllabus that I think are very important. The course description is essentially a summary of the rationale that we've discussed before. And the first section I want to cover in detail is the section on course learning outcomes. It is also, in my view, by far the most important section in the syllabus, as it tells you what I expect you to be able to do at the end of the course. Moreover, as I will explain in the lecture on course organization, every activity and every assignment that we do in the course somehow relates to one of the course learning outcomes, with one exception that we'll get to later. So let's go through the course learning outcomes one by one. The first one reads, discuss the importance of data visualization in improving data-driven organizational decision-making. In a sense, we already covered this when we discuss the rationale for the course. Any insights you gain from an in-depth analysis of organizational data is useless unless you can effectively and compellingly communicate these insights to organizational decision makers. And data visualization is one way of achieving this. We will briefly come back to this course learning outcome when we discuss the storytelling with data book. And a somewhat related topic is the discussion we will have later on data visualization and visual impairment. How do you make sure that your data visualizations can be used to improve organizational decision-making if the organizational decision makers have some form of visual impairment? The second course learning outcome is distinguish between truthful and misleading visualizations and discuss what makes a visualization truthful or misleading. You've all heard the expression popularized by Mark Twain. There are three kinds of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics. We can add a fourth kind of lie to this, namely misleading visualizations. We will see an example of a misleading visualization later on in this module. And one of the exercises in this module is for you to find one good, truthful, and one misleading visualization. It seems to me that as a data scientist, you have an ethical obligation to make your visualizations as truthful as possible, and certainly to avoid misleading visualizations. And it will therefore be useful for us to have a discussion on what makes a visualization good or misleading. The third course learning outcome is use data visualization tools to produce quality visualizations. It seems to me that this course learning outcome is obvious. The course on data visualization has to cover how to create visualizations. We will cover three data visualization tools, namely Tableau, Power BI, and the various extensions to Excel, including Power Pivot, Power View, and Power Query. We will cover Tableau in some depth, as it is becoming the data visualization tool of choice, but we will at least give you a taste of Power BI and the Excel extensions. The reason for covering all three is that while Tableau is probably the more powerful one, it's also the most expensive one, and Power BI and the Excel extensions are free. The fourth learning outcome is create visualizations in multiple programming languages. We already covered this in the rationale for the course. It's not enough for you as a data scientist to simply use existing high-level tools, especially since you're likely to use programming languages such as R to analyze data. It is, of course, possible to analyze the data in R and then to visualize your insights in a high-level data visualization tool. And in many cases, this may actually be the best route to take. But you at least need to know how to create basic visualizations in the actual programming languages. The final course learning outcome is use widely used data visualization tools to clearly, effectively, and compellingly communicate insights to improve organizational decision making. In a sense, this is the most important learning outcome. And you could argue that the whole course is set up to allow you to achieve this learning outcome. Thus, you need to know what makes a visualization good or misleading if you're going to use them to clearly, effectively, and compellingly communicate your insights. And you need to be able to create them in the first place. The final project, which is in many ways the culmination of this course, directly addresses this course learning outcome. We will come back to these course learning outcomes throughout the course, as I will use them to justify the material we cover and the activities I ask you to complete. If you scroll down a bit, you will see the assessment instruments we'll use to assess your performance in the course. As you see, the bulk is the final project, which addresses the fifth course learning outcome. Because of the importance of the final project, there are a few mechanisms in the course that will help you, some of which we discussed when we talked about the rationale for the course. So 3 of the smaller graded discussions give you the opportunity to discuss your project ideas and the progress you're making. And you will have the opportunity to submit a draft of the project for me to give feedback on. There are also a fairly large number of mini projects. They are relevant to learning outcomes 3 and 4, and hence indirectly to learning outcome 5. And they will allow you to develop the skills to use data visualization tools or to create visualizations in programming languages. You see that about 10% of the grades come from graded discussions. They are relevant to the first 2 learning outcomes. One concerns truthful and misleading visualizations, and the other one concerns data visualization and visual impairment. Finally, there is the reflective essay. This paper is not directly relevant to any of the learning outcomes. The reason I included it is that research has shown that learning improves considerably, especially for adult students such as yourself, if students reflect on their learning and how they could use the competencies and knowledge they have acquired in a course throughout their careers. The syllabus itself contains a link to the research. I also, rather shamelessly I have to say, used the reflection paper to solicit suggestions from you for course improvements. It will probably be easy for you to write a reflection essay at the end if you take a few minutes, 10 to 15 minutes at most, at the completion of a module to reflect on what you learned and make a few notes. If you scroll down a little further, you will see a provisional schedule for the course. I am fairly sure that we will be able to stick to it, but as you know, this is the first time I'm teaching this version of the course. All the previous versions were for MBA students. And it's the first time at all that I teach any course both face-to-face and online at the same time. It's therefore not impossible that we run into unexpected complications. And I therefore want to be at liberty to change the schedule if we have to. We may, for example, be able to only cover one programming language. One thing I will make sure of is that we do not cover any new material after spring break, which, as you know, is late for COVID-related reasons, and that you have that period to work on your project. Now, please read the syllabus, the full syllabus, in particular various policies at the end, and post any questions you might have in the discussion forum. If you do not have any questions, please say so in the discussion forum as well. The discussion is graded, and I will use it for attendance verification purposes. The turnaround time is therefore very brief. You have to make your contribution by Friday of this week. Okay, thanks.